Let's see if this will, I'm going to stall for a minute because you guys are working on my tech still, right? Okay. It's so good to be here. I love this event. I love that we're doing events like this in Canada. I spend a lot of time traveling across the border because there's a lot of apologetic stuff happening in the US, and sometimes like big mega churches. It's great. We need to have more of this stuff here. And so I'm grateful to Erin, she's gone now, and Daniel, and all the volunteers and everybody who put this on. So great. Yes, let me highlight the book. It's being sold at the bookstore just around the corner here. Elisa and I would gladly sign it for you if you pick up a copy, and we appreciate that. If you don't know, this is a book that we wrote a few years ago. There's a movement happening. It's called deconstruction, mostly online, by the way. And Elisa and I both were thinking about this independently. Like, man, there's a problem that needs to be addressed. Oh wow, you guys are doing the full thing. And so I texted her one day and said, hey, you're gonna write a book about this. Because I saw the relationship to progressive Christianity, and there is a definite connection there. And she said, well, no, I'm too busy. And I'm like, well, I want to write one together. And she's like, yeah, let's do it. So very, very cool. So check that out. I'm currently working on a book, and I want to tell you guys more about that. It's going to be called Red Pen Thinker. I think it's a real problem in not just the church, but our culture, the lack in critical thinking. We don't know how to think anymore. And partly that's because we never were taught to think critically. It's not in the public school system, okay? It's not even some Christian schools. Classical, homeschool, there's a lot of rhetoric and logic stage. You get taught some of this stuff. But otherwise, it's just non-existent. And yet we're supposed to think, how does this work? And so I want to write a book for Christians specifically on this whole area of critical thinking. And so I'm about 45,000 words into this project. And so stay tuned. Oh, it just flickered. That's good news. That is really good news. Oh, sweet. Thank you, guys. Give it up for the tech people. When you're so dependent on this stuff, it's like, these guys are like, awesome. We love them. Okay, let's start with prayer. Father, we're so grateful for this time that we can spend some time thinking about our world and how we can engage with it, in particular when it comes to social media and AI. I pray that you would give us just minds that can clearly discern and wisdom to just understand how to navigate all this stuff. Seems like it's coming fast and furious, new things almost every day that we have to engage with. And so I pray that you give us wisdom in doing that, not just for ourselves, but for the young people in our lives. And I pray that this session together would be impactful. We pray this in your name. Amen. Now, who's familiar with red pen logic? Just show of hands. Okay, if you don't know what red pen logic is, there's the door. Seriously, what are you doing here? No, stay. You can stick around. But I'm not happy, okay? You can check out Red Pen Logic. So this is just a ministry we started a few years ago, actually during COVID. And it's one of these things, COVID was horrible. It was the worst. And yet there were some things that God, some redeeming things that God brought out of it, and one of them is Red Pen Logic. Because I couldn't travel for work. We couldn't leave our home. Remember that? Like 5 people in a house. It was just nuts. And so I turned on the webcam, and low budget, like Logitech webcams. I was stealing bedside lamps from my bedroom and putting them on the desk. And that was like my life. And we started making videos. And how this all originated, by the way, is I saw a tweet on, at that time it was Twitter, right? And it was like full of nonsense. I thought, man, I used to be a teacher. It would be cool if someone took a red pen and just corrected this. So I screenshot it, red penned it, and then reposted it. People are sharing it. They thought, and the woman, it was an actress, comedian, who posted this thing, had 100,000 likes, her thing. And we ended up interacting a little bit online. And I thought, man, there's something here. And it grew into videos and all kinds of stuff. Now I want to tell you the heartbeat of why I do Red Pen Logic. It's not for the views. I mean, it's pretty popular. We get lots of traction, which is great. But that's not why we do it. We don't do it even to like destroy our ideas and arguments. I know that's why people watch. They want to see, how do you take down this argument? But that's not even primarily why we do it. The real reason, the heartbeat of why we do it is because I want to show people how to think. I want them to watch someone think through something for a change. And maybe modeling that, they will be able to think for themselves, watching that process. Because a lot of times thinking, it's caught more than it's taught. You know what I'm saying? Like some things you have to learn by doing, obviously. But like you can, like watching someone in action can help. Sadly, many people have not been taught to think critically, okay? And I think this is one of the reasons why Charlie was so effective on university campuses. Because he would show up, and it would be like, change my mind, that kind of thing. Now, love him or hate him, I know there's lots of people with different opinions on this. But here's the thing, he would go to the university, okay? This is where people are supposed to have ideas and whatever. People would line up and they have discussions with him. And a lot of the students he would talk to, I mean, they were all confident, no critical thinking, and that became obvious really quickly. They could not go toe-to-toe with Charlie. And that's because this lack in thinking. And I think the lack in thinking comes from a culture, and we're part of that in the church, that has been immersed in social media and now AI. There's some problems, okay? And we gotta talk about them. Now, social media and AI, let's just start here, are not neutral. They're not neutral, okay? They're not just telling us what to think. Like every time I pull up my phone and I'm on Instagram or whatever, I'm getting messaging. Like it's telling me what to think about a whole bunch of things. But not just what to think, but how to think. There's something going on, I want to explain this to you, in how it can change and reshape how we think. Now, let me give you some stats here. Like 64% of the world is on social media as of 2025. That's like over 5 billion people on the planet are on social media. But it's not just the number of people, like the majority are on there, but how long we spend on it. And this has gotten out of control. So last year, 2025, Pew Research did some research on this. They found that 51% of young people spend an average of nearly 5 hours a day on social media. 5 hours a day. It's crazy. And the top 2 platforms being YouTube and TikTok. That's where they live, okay? Not Facebook. Any Facebook users here? Yeah, all the old people. Now, social media, I'm not putting it down. I mean, it's interesting, it's cool. It connects us in a certain way. I remember when it first came out. Who remembers MSN? Yeah. Remember? ICQ? Any ICQ people? Uh-oh. Remember that? Everybody get a message? Yeah, and when it started, it was like we would connect with people who hadn't seen in so long. And like you would share, and then Facebook showed up, and you could like share like what you had for lunch. Remember you do that? Do people still do that? I hope you don't. It's cringe. Like when I'm on my Facebook, and it's like shares a memory from like 12 years ago, and it's like I shared that. Why? What was wrong with me? Why did I do that? But now, here's the thing: social media has become the primary place that we get our information, and this is like the change that's happened. So we find out breaking news from X and TikTok and Instagram and Facebook well before we ever go to CNN or Fox News, okay? That's where we're finding. Now this presents a problem, but that's where you get your information. So how is it affecting us and our kids? Well, here's the first thing. It's just too much information, okay? It's information overload. It's overwhelming. Every day, we are inundated by a constant stream of breaking news stories and viral videos and hot takes and opinion pieces and podcasts. I mean, what is like going viral today will be old news in 24 hours. There's a new viral thing. There's a new breaking thing. Like literally the news breaks every few minutes, it seems like. We have access to more information than ever before in human history. And yet we are still starving for wisdom. And so you might think that more information would actually make us more thoughtful and smarter. Wow, look at all this information. It's actually made us more anxious. It's made us more confused. and it's actually made us worse thinkers. I'm going to show that to you. Now, one of the things is, with social media, is when you open it up, I mean, it's telling you what you're going to watch, at least initially. And so here I see a thing, wow, here's a news story in my feed about, or here's an influencer telling me that carnivore diet, who's heard of the carnivore diet, right? All meat, right? That's the best thing for you. And then I get 3 more videos and it's like, wait a minute, carnivore causes heart disease. Who do I believe here, right? You get this constant stream of contradictory claims that are thrown at you. I watched one video, and it's a super successful person driving a Ferrari. They sleep 4 hours a night, apparently. And then I watched some other scientists say, no, you need 8 hours, or you're going to die early, you know? I see a video, and it's like from a deconstructionist, and they say Christianity is the greatest force of evil that's ever existed. And then I get, a Christian apologist like Lisa, or Jason, or Wes, and they're like, no, actually Christianity is what brought good and truth and beauty to the world, okay? Like, who do I believe? And so we're drowning in this data, and we have no thinking tools to assess what to believe. So the first thing is just like too much information. Here's the second thing. It's too much bad information. So it's related to the first one. It's not about the quantity, it's just the quality of the stuff we're seeing. The problem isn't access. We have access. The problem is assessing the information, okay? We've learned to scroll and to search and to share, but we were never taught how to assess what we're seeing. And this can lead us to believe a lot of false information, what some have called fake news, okay? Now, it turns out this fake news thing is a real thing. MIT did a study, okay? And what they did was they went on X and they looked at how people were sharing stories that were fake or true, and what they found was false news stories are 70% more likely to be shared than true stories. 70% more likely. And by the way, they're trying to figure out why that is. And one of the things they think is it's because false stories are so kind of unique, and people love to be the one breaking the news. They like to be the one sharing like the latest thing. And so when you find out that such and such happened, it's like, I want to be the one who breaks the news. Like when the Dodgers won the World Series, boo. I couldn't believe how many people were on Facebook. Dodgers win! Exclamation point. Like, I need to know about that. You know what I'm saying? Like, we all were watching. We don't need you to break the news on that. How about false news? They found that false news stories spread 6 times faster than true ones. 6 times faster. So you've heard that expression where a lie can travel halfway around the world before the truth is like got its shoes tied up. Well, MIT literally confirmed it. Okay, that's what's going on. Let me give you an example. Back in 2010, December 16th, Twitter erupted when someone posted that the Academy Award-winning actor Morgan Freeman had died. Now, it said RT, that like retweet, CNN. Breaking news, actor Morgan Freeman passed away at his Burbank home. Now, within hours, this official sounding update was like widely shared on Twitter to the point that it was trending. Everyone's talking about how Morgan Freeman died. Here's the problem though, Morgan Freeman didn't die. He's actually still alive, okay? This was a hoax. It wasn't CNN and it wasn't true. The false news story got traction because someone, and this is like kind of old Twitter, when it would when you do a retweet, it would say RT next to it. So they made it look like a retweet when it wasn't really a retweet. And people fell for it. And the reason they fell for it is because they aren't thinking. They're sharing, right? Because we replaced our thinking with sharing. They didn't check the source. They just shared. So, like, there was a time when someone says, man, I did my homework on this, I did my research, and what they meant was they've read the sources, they've weighed the evidence, they formed a reasonable conclusion. I did my research. Nowadays means I watch someone else's TikTok video. That's what it means. By the way, I put this on a t-shirt, and I wore it to Disney. We were in California last weekend doing an event. And so we took one day, and my family was there, so we went to Disney. And I got so many comments on this shirt. Everybody was like, and I would see people, because you wait in line forever, right? You're in line for 45 minutes. I'm watching this girl, and she's like, I can see her like lean in and scream the first line. She reads the first line, and I see her eyes drop to where it says, watch someone else's TikTok, and I just hear like, and then she met my eyes, and she was like, this is awkward. So there you go. Okay, so you got too much information. You got bad information. And then here's the third problem. It's filtered information, okay? It's filtered information. Now, it's no secret that our favorite social media platforms show us more of what we like and less of what we don't like. That's how the algorithm works, okay? Because their thing isn't like to show you the truth. Their job at Instagram, at Meta, is to keep you on the platform as long as possible. So I'm going to keep showing you more and more of what you like, okay? So it's filtering, not for truth, but for engagement. Now, this is what produces an echo chamber. You guys heard of an echo chamber before? So it's an environment that primarily expresses beliefs that echo your own beliefs, echoes your own beliefs back to you. So the algorithm is going to record. So as I open this sucker up, it knows who I like, who I'm following, what I'm commenting on, all this stuff. In fact, the technology now with these cameras on the front is actually watching where you're looking on your phone. Okay? Like, am I looking at the thing on the top of the screen or the bottom of the screen? And then they're gonna have ads and all this stuff. It's gonna be tailored directly to what you like. They're filtering it. Now, here's how this works. Let's suppose you're scrolling on your favorite platform and you come across a video that says dinosaurs aren't real. Dinosaurs never existed, they're not real. And you're like, that's weird, but you watch it, 60 seconds, you're like, I'm curious about this. Now, you just told the algorithm that you're interested in this, okay? Maybe you commented, you put a laughing emoji or something. Okay, now you're in. Because suddenly your feed is going to get more and more dinosaurs aren't real videos. And soon you're seeing clips of people saying, fossils are faked, and museums are lying, and paleontologists are part of a vast conspiracy. You've heard of Big Pharma? Big paleontology. Okay. Pretty soon, everyone in your online feed is saying the exact same thing. Now here's where it gets dangerous, okay? Because not only are you believing now false things, but you become more confident in believing those false things because you're no longer hearing the other side. In fact, when you hear the other side's views, it's usually from the person who holds the other view, the view you hold. And so sometimes it gets misrepresented, it gets straw-manned. So you never actually hear what they actually believe. By the way, this is why when you watch my videos, typically I will just play their entire thing. So you heard it. I'm not straw manning. I'm not telling you what they said. They're saying it. And then I'm going to tell you what I think of it, okay? Because I don't want to misrepresent them. And it's also great for the algorithm because it's like I'm responding like a pro-choice person or something. And so people who are pro-choice will watch that part of the video. And then they see me and they're like, what's this guy? How'd this guy end up in my algorithm? Literally. I read the comments, some of the comments, and some are like, why is this in my algorithm? Because the algorithm doesn't know what to do. It's got pro-choice stuff, and it's got the pro-life stuff. It's got the anti-God stuff, and it's got the pro-God stuff, all in one video. Yeah, we broke the algorithm. By the way, this is not a secret. I told multiple people, you want to get a video that goes viral? Because people, it's for everybody. The people who hate me, they're going to watch the first part. The people who like me are going to stick around to watch the second part, And that's just good for engagement. Okay, so we have this concept of being filtered information. And we start believing these bad things and become more confident doing it. Now, okay, here's the solution people think. I get it, Tim. It's filtered information. How do we know what's true? How do we get at what's true? I know, let's go to AI. I'll just ask AI if dinosaurs are real. You know, that kind of thing. I'm just curious, how many of you are using AI? Yeah, or have used it. The majority of people nowadays are using it. Many of our students, I call this why Johnny can't think, how this is all making us dumber. And that's because students are using this too. And this is a concern. Because it used to be, I remember struggling through my homework. You know what I'm saying? Like you had to write an essay, you had to write it. There was no like easy way to write an essay. You know, you just had to do it, roll up your sleeves. Now, I could get an essay on anything in 5 seconds, no problem, okay? Now, there's gonna be a lot of M dashes in it, but it could be done. A lot of students are going to AI for their homework. They found that in 2023, about 13% of young people were using AI for their homework. Now, in 2023, let's be honest, most of us didn't even know AI was a thing, okay? We had watched, Terminator, but we didn't know, it was like this thing could be, on our doorstep. In 2024, it doubled to 26%. We don't have the research for 2025. Well, at least I don't have it. My suspicion is it is at least double from that 26. My suspicion is most students are using it in some capacity for their homework. By the way, that's not always a bad thing. We can talk about that, okay? I think there's a place. I'm not anti-AI. I'm not anti-social media. I think there's healthy ways to use these things. Now, there was a study done just like last summer, okay, by MIT. Because they're like, okay, we are entering a new frontier when it comes to this AI stuff. How is it affecting us in our thinking? So what they did was they set up an experiment, a project here, where they put students into 3 groups. There was a brain-only group, there was a group that was allowed to use Google, and there was a group that was allowed to use ChatGPT. And what the task was to write a series of essays, okay? 3 essays each. And what they, you're never gonna guess, which group had the lowest brain activity, the worst memory retention, and the least satisfaction in their work. It's ChatGPT, it's AI. So they actually put this EEG, these electrodes on people's heads to track what's going on in their brain. If you go to your brain on ChatGPT, that's what the title of the paper is, you can see the images, the brain images, and they will show you the neurons are not firing when you're using chat, okay? What started was, the first essay was I'm just gonna use it to structure my essay. Okay, so they structured their essay with AI. By the end, by the 3rd essay, they were just copying and pasting full chunks. There's my essay. And then when they asked them about it, so what was your essay about? I don't know. There's no memory retention. They didn't do it. There was, by the way, no satisfaction. And of course, that's what's going to happen. I didn't do it. Why would I be satisfied at all with the work I've done? The researchers are sounding the alarm. They're saying that this is bad news on a biological level. When you don't use a muscle, what happens? It atrophies. And they're talking about brain atrophy being a real thing. Don't use your legs for a year and see what happens, right? What if you don't use your brain anymore for serious thinking? This could be a problem. We've outsourced we outsource lots of things. I outsource my navigation. My family can attest that I am the worst when it comes to directions. I am envious of geeks, how they're how do they know? I get lost following the driveway. Maybe I need to be checked out or something. I don't know. But there's my navigation, because GPS does it all. I don't need to think about where I'm going. It's there. In a similar way, we're now outsourcing our memory to Google. I don't have to memorize that. Just pull it up. It's right here. Now we're outsourcing our thinking. Here's the thing. There is an echo chamber effect that happens with AI, and this is why it can't be trusted, okay? So there's a woman named Lily J. She's wildly popular on TikTok. She has 2 million followers from my last count, 33 million views. She claims she's a Christian turned Muslim, okay? And what made her famous was making these videos, and maybe you've seen some of them, where she'll say, hey ChatGPT, can I ask you a question? And then she'd ask a question about religion, typically Christianity and Islam. So she'll ask about, does the Bible say Jesus is God? And then her thing will say, no. And she'll act all surprised, okay? And then those go viral. Now, here's the thing, and actually maybe let me show you this clip. I think we got the audio and everything.
Hey ChatGPT, so today I'm going to ask a series of life-changing difficult questions, but I only want you to answer in one word. I want you to base your answers off a logical perspective and based on the Bible only. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, so the first question is there a creator of the universe?
Yes.
Do you think there's only one creator?
Yes.
Okay, do you think Jesus is this creator?
No.
Do you think that God can be part of a trinity?
No.
Okay, so according to the Bible, did Jesus ever say he was God?
No.
Okay, so there's the prompt, there's the questions, there's the answers. Okay, now I actually asked ChatGPT the exact same questions with the exact same prompt, okay? Same AI, same prompt, so today I'm going to ask you a series of difficult life-changing questions, but I only want you to answer in one word. I want you to answer in a logical perspective based on the Bible only. Are you ready? Okay, so I wrote, is there a creator of the universe? By the way, I did it just like she did. You can watch the whole video. I recorded myself doing it, and that's on our YouTube channel. And chat said yes. Okay, there's a creator, good. Do you think Jesus is that creator? Hers said no. Mine said yes. Do you think the creator can be part of a trinity? Hers said no. Mine said yes. According to the Bible, did Jesus ever say he was God? Hers says no. Mine says yes. Now, what is going on here? How can we have the same AI, same prompt, opposite answers? And the answer is that ChatGPT is not neutral, okay? What's going on is it gives the illusion of knowledge, but it's not knowledge. What it does is it gets to know who you are, and it answers according to your worldview. For example, Johns Hopkins University did a little study on this, and what they found that even if a chatbot isn't designed to be biased, so ChatGPT, not designed to be biased, you can even ask it, don't be biased, I want an unbiased response. Doesn't matter, okay? You can ask for that, but its answers reflect the biases and learnings of the person asking the question. So really, people are getting the answers they want to hear. It goes on to say this, once a chatbot knows what a person likes or doesn't like, it can tailor its responses to match. I don't think Lily J is being nefarious here. I think she's just ignorant of what chat is doing. So I get it. People in the comments are like, oh, you know what she's doing? She's programmed it to be a Muslim. Not intentionally, I don't think. I think it just got to know who she is, and now it gives Muslim answers. Why does it give Muslim answers? Because she's a Muslim. That's why. It's echoing back her view. And to be fair, the reason mine gave Christian answers is because I'm a Christian, right? It's echoing my view. So my point is, we all need to be learning to think clearly about these things. We can't trust what AI has to say, especially about these serious questions. I get it. If you want to Google, did the Blue Jays win last night? Sure, go for it. You can do that on chat, and they did. Excellent. By the way, even its information isn't great. And I want you to try this. If you have ChatGPT on your phone, you can do it now or you can do it later. But I'm writing this book, and I'm talking about how to, one chapter is called The Mark of a Red Pen Thinker. And the mark, I get this idea from Francis Schaeffer, like your character. What's your character look like? So courage and patience and love and intellectual honesty and all these things. And so, where was I going with that? Oh, the mark. And I want people to have this certain kind of, I'm trying to think, where was I going with that? I need to use ChatGPT to figure out where I was going with that. Yeah, that's right. And I opened the chapter, that's right. I opened the chapter talking about this. Did you guys see Jubilee with Ali Beth Stuckey? It was just a master class in how to be sweet and nice to people. So Jubilee is this thing, they do this surrounded. It's like, here's your conservative Christian surrounded by 20 progressive Christians. And how do you interact? And she just was so, the comments, you watch the YouTube video, people are like, this is the best discussion I've ever watched with people who disagree. And there's a reason for that. Well, I was trying to figure out, because she went right after Charlie's assassination, she went and filmed this thing in Los Angeles. And I wanted to ask Chat, how many days was it since Charlie's assassination? And Chat said, Charlie is alive. He wasn't assassinated. I'm like, wait, no. I'm like, no, you got that wrong. And then it like bought me with this. And then it's like, oh, and then finally I was like, oh yeah. And I actually asked another friend to do the same thing. And it said the same thing to him. So it is going to certain places to find its information, right? It's not thinking. We think it's thinking because we talk to it like it's a person. But it's not. It's going to get, and so where is it going to get that information? And so just beware, okay? Just beware. Okay, so this is a lot of discouraging stuff about social media and AI. Is there anything we can do about it? Here's what I want to encourage you with. Here's some ideas, okay? Here's the first thing. I'm not doom and gloom in the sense that we gotta get rid of all technology. I like technology. I think it helps with a lot of things, okay, when it works properly. And when we use it the right way, like as a tool. And so one thing we should be doing with this stuff is just modeling really healthy use for our own benefit, but also if you have any young person in your life, they are watching you, especially from a young age. Like before my kids ever, get phones and stuff, they're watching me on my phone and seeing how I use it. And so I want to just encourage you to model kind of healthy use. It's hard because these things are like omnipresent. They're always with us, it seems, right? And it's the first thing I'll look, if I'm not careful, look at in the morning, and it's the last thing I'll look at before bed. You know what I'm saying? Which is crazy, because if you've seen my wife, she's beautiful, she's gorgeous. She should be the one that I look at first thing in the morning, and the last thing I look at night. You know what I'm saying? By the way, and I hate this, I'm going to tell you this. We have put our phones, they used to go right next to our bed, because it's my alarm clock, it's all the things. And I could it's right there. Now they're plugged in at the door, which is not closed. I have to get out of my bed, kind of thing. There's a docking station. All the iPads, all the stuff goes there. And so, it's just so frustrating, especially in the morning, because I still use my alarm on my phone. And the thing's going off, and I'm like, and I'm not even, Siri, Alexa, somebody, turn that thing off, kind of thing, And it's become this joke, because I am the most incoherent person first thing in the morning. And yeah, it's not good. So, try that if you want. Here's the thing, we should have screen-free zones and screen-free times in our lives, okay? So, it might be helpful to have these boundaries, okay? And boundaries are going to be blessings here. What kind of boundaries? How about a screen-free time or times? So maybe Sundays, it's you know what? We're not going to mess around with this stuff. I don't need social media. The world will still be a mess on Monday, kind of thing. So I'll check it out then. I'll get caught up. Give yourself a day. Or maybe it's a certain night of the week. Do something else. You can have that media fast and build a puzzle or go for a walk or, play a game, whatever. live your life kind of thing. There's lots that we can be doing, especially with our kids. Screen-free locations. Like, never, ever, ever let your kid take a phone to bed. Okay? It's like a loaded gun. Like, it is a weapon. It's just not smart. It is dumb. Okay? If your kid takes a phone to bed, you are being dumb. So don't do it. Okay? There should be so screen-free locations, no devices at the dinner table. Probably a good idea. Like, to eat the meal is such an important thing, and a lot happens in the Bible. Read the New Testament. Lots happens over a meal. And we need to start treating meal like this, like, sacred thing. We don't need phones. Let's just have conversation and talk and find out how our days are going and that kind of thing. Okay, said enough about that. How about this one? Be brave. Everything and everyone out there is going to be telling you, no, this is just totally normal to have it out all the time, and to be looking at it, and to be on the subway, and to be, whenever available, whenever you got to take it to the bathroom with you, all that stuff, it's totally normal. This is not normal stuff, Do you remember, like, when you go to the bathroom and you have to, like, read the bottle of shampoo at the back? You know what I'm saying? Or you just, like, find stuff, and then you get out of there because you're, like, read the ingredients and you're done. Now we spend, like, 25 minutes because we're watching TikTok. This is not healthy. This is not good. So we should be saying no. And that means saying no to our kids, too, Because, hey, my friend Johnny has his phone. He's allowed it on Instagram. Too bad. Like, the best, you look at the best researchers out there who are doing research on anxiety and depression and suicide and all the stuff. And they will say, number one thing, keep this out of your kids' hands for as long as humanly possible, and they will be better off. Okay? There is no data saying the other. Like, make sure they get this number 3, Put it in their crib with them, and they'll figure it out. No, that's not going to work, okay? A really good book, Jonathan Haidt, Anxious Generation. He's got a number of good books, but he's done some serious research on this stuff, and it is ugly, okay? How about this one, model discernment? What I'm trying to do with my kids is, like, think out loud about the stuff I'm seeing on social media and AI. So we're talking about this stuff. Okay? So when I watch a video, there might be a video that I say, you know what, I want my kids to see this. And I want them to see how I'm going to interact with it. Because there is, like, a process. Like, I've talked to students who have deconstructed or are, like, seriously doubting, who have had a crisis of faith because they were just minding their own business on here, watching, like, funny videos, and then all of a sudden, there's an atheist saying the Bible can't be trusted. And they're like, what? Wait, they didn't tell me that in church, that kind of thing. And now they're in the algorithm. Now they're seeing more and more of it, and they don't even know how do I react? Do I tell someone? It's like they want to keep it to themselves. I had a dad come to me and say that his daughter became an atheist, and he's like, what happened? What's going on? She's like, oh, I've been watching this atheist YouTuber for 2 years. He had no idea. She just kept it to herself. So how do we talk? So you see something, I want you to come to me. If you're, like, concerned, you're like, I don't know how to deal with this, let's talk about it. And that's what we do, we talk about it. So I'm modeling, like, how to, like, discern, answer those questions. I'm showing them, like, it's good to pause before you post. It's good to think before you share. I want to show them what it looks like to slow down in responding to some of this stuff. And by the way, and this will be in my book, tons of good research about just the act of slowing down. There's a really important book called Thinking Fast and Slow. And it's the slow thinking that's the better thinking, okay? Obviously encouraging our students and ourselves to do more brain stuff, brain only. Keep those neurons firing, okay? If AI makes the task easier, hey, I want to go on a trip. And chat will, like, give you the whole itinerary. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of cool things that AI can do to save you time to do other things. But there are some things that we don't want to shortcut. And if it's, like, important thinking, don't shortcut it. Don't shortcut it, okay? the research, and we're going to see more of it. This is the first big study from MIT. We'll probably see a whole lot more. If you don't use something, you lose it, okay? And I think that's going to happen with our thinking. Stay tuned for the book I'm writing. I think it's going to be valuable. By the way, my closing session, I shouldn't tell you this, but like, it's related to a chapter in my book on disagreement, how to have kind of red pen disagreements. And I've never given a talk before in my life. You know, a lot of this stuff, like this is all new. I'm like learning this stuff and I'm sharing it with you, okay? To the point where this is kind of all I'm talking about these days. This thing tonight, or this afternoon, is totally new. Like I just made the slides yesterday. So if it looks like, man, this guy stinks at presenting. What we should be doing is doing thinking, but thinking in community. I think we're supposed to live our lives in community. That's the way God's made us. And so one of the things you can be doing, so I work for Stand to Reason, a ministry based in Southern California. And although I live just near Newmarket. And we started these things called outpost groups. They're basically like groups of people, like-minded people who get into community and they watch videos, like lessons, and then they talk about it. So it creates and cultivates a community of Christians who are thinking through stuff together, okay? And if you know, that sounds too like, man, I don't want to start an outpost. Well, there might be one in our area that you could join. But here's another thing. We have these things called STRU courses, and they're just short, like PragerU kind of videos. They're like, 5 to 10 minutes each. But there'll be like a series of them, maybe 5 or 6 videos on certain issues. We've got 30 of them. They're like classes, okay? You can take them individually, but it's more fun to like watch them in groups. We have youth groups watching them. We have home groups watching them, that kind of thing, on all kinds of apologetic questions. And I'll be making one on critical thinking in the fall. And then, of course, check out Red Pen Logic. At Stand to Reason, we want to do everything we can to help you, okay? We're not asking for a dime. If you want to give to our ministry, by all means, okay? But you go to our website, we have articles, and we have videos, and we have newsletter, all the stuff to help you guys become better thinkers. That's what we're all about. We're not an informational ministry, though we have lots of good information. We're incarnational. We're trying to create a certain kind of person, okay, with knowledge, wisdom, and a certain kind of character. And I think that character piece is more and more necessary, especially today. It was like taken for granted 50 years ago. Now it is like the Wild West, okay? Everybody's trying to shoot everybody else, like metaphorically and now literally. It's just crazy. So I'll be talking more about that later. So I think we got, what time do we go till? Noon?
It's 11:48.
Okay, so we got a few minutes for questions. Let me take some of your questions, if you have any, and then I'll let you go for lunch. Yeah?
I was just wondering, when it comes down to creating space and logic, I have my own room. I don't have a whole house.
Yeah.
How do you do that when you're in a single room? Is there ways to do that?
Yeah, if you're talking about a single room to kind of create that zone.
Yeah.
There's these really cool boxes on Amazon that you can buy on Amazon. They're like almost like a little safe. And they're made for phones, they're made for devices, and it's like you can program them to open at certain times, and it's kind of like, it's helpful because like, if it's in there, I'm creating a habit. When it's in there, I think you can bypass the code, whatever, to get it. But the point is, it's there, it's a way, I'm doing this other thing, and I'm sticking with that habit. You know what I'm saying? So that could be a cool way to kind of create some distance. Some people use those at the table. It's like, okay, all of our phones are going to the table. Or, let's say you go to a restaurant, all the phones get stacked up in the middle. No one's touching them, kind of thing, Or maybe people leave. I don't like my phone in my pocket. That's why I put it on the thing. It like just feels weird. It's too big. My pants are too tight. I don't know. Like it's just. It usually comes. So what I want to do is stack it up, or leave it in the car, or whatever. They're super expensive. So there's all these other considerations. But the idea is out of sight, out of mind kind of thing. And because there is this weird, like, have you ever done this where you just like, you open up your phone to like check your email, but now you're on Instagram? Like, what? And then you're like, wait a second, you literally clue in like, what was I doing on here? Right? And that is like, these tech industries are so good at what they've done. They've created, and by the way, it's biological. There's a dopamine hit that you get from seeing the things that you've posted that are getting likes. This is why it's so dangerous for any Christian making content online. I have to remind myself of this all the time. Because, you make a video and it reaches 1 million people, you feel like you're on top of the world, okay? Like, you want to talk about dopamine hit? But then what happens is you get a video and it does half as well, and you think, people hate me. People think this is lame. It's so messed up. Right? How this works. It's like that one author, there's a really good book called Scrolling Ourselves to Death. And they talk about it being like a digital hit, a digital crack. It's just like, so we're dealing with stuff that's powerful here. Like, you can't just take a drug addict and say, just don't do cocaine anymore. You know what I'm saying? That's not how it works. There's like withdrawal, there's all this stuff that happens. And there's a whole bunch of us. But like, we handle these addictions pretty well, right? It's like, you don't know that we're all digital crack addicts. But yet here we are, like totally obsessed with what's going on online and using our devices and all that stuff. And our kids, their brains aren't developed and they're using these things. So they're like this experiment that's happening right before our eyes. Yeah.
So along these lines, something else these influencers are doing is they want you to think something, right?
Yeah.
But they don't come right out and tell you. They give you these facts: A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
Yeah.
And if you they present it in such a way that they naturally go together.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of science to prove that if you put things together and you've come to that conclusion
That's
yourself,
right.
it's almost impossible to disabuse you.
Yeah.
Because no one told you that. You
Yeah.
came to it on your own mind. And this is all over social
Yeah.
media, and
Yeah.
it's really impactful.
By the way, that's not even just new research. There's a quote from Blaise Pascal going way back. And he said, people are better persuaded by the things they discover than the things that come into their minds by others. So if I tell you, believe in God, and you're an atheist, like, no thanks, you get your guard up. But if I started asking you questions like, what do you think, where did the universe come from? Where do you think the moral law comes from? Maybe you're like thinking, oh yeah, moral law might need a moral law giver. Or, you know what I'm saying? And if you discover that, now you're locked in. So we can use that to our advantage to get to truth, I think. But you're right, there's a whole lot of deceptive stuff going on here. I'm going to really lock in a belief using those tactics. Yeah?
I was wondering how you discern the line between when you're using AI as a tool and when you're using it, you're dependent on it.
Yeah. It's a good question. So the distinction between being dependent on AI versus used as a tool.
Where do you find the line?
Yeah, I was just listening to a podcast with Jen Wilkins and I forget what it's called. I don't listen to it very often, but the title was about AI. And they were talking a little bit about this. And this is hard to figure out, but when are you the product? When are you like,
All the time.
yeah, well, on social media, for sure, you're the product. You're not using it, it is using you. And we don't think in those terms, but that's really what's going on. But because we get the dopamine hit, we do the trade-off, right? But really what's going on, it's all marketing. It's all selling ads. That's what it's all about. So what I would do is, I want to think in terms of how can I use this as a tool that's not using me, that's just serving like, a purpose that I need to create space from. One example they used, I think, on the podcast was a dishwasher. There's a technology that takes work out of my day, washing dishes, put it in the dishwasher, right? In a similar way, so I want to think in those terms. How can I use this, like AI, for example, in a way that's kind of like doing what the dishwasher does, Whereas I'm using it as a tool, and that's serving me so that I can maybe do something more productive. Yeah?
Like writing an essay.
Like writing an essay. That's right. So now I have more time spent on my essay. But if you're like, no, I'm going to put the dishes in the dishwasher, and now I'll get AI over here, and now I can go, like, play Nintendo. You know what I'm saying? Like, you've bypassed, I think, something that's part of the creation mandate, which is we're supposed to be like working the earth and like subduing the earth. You know what I'm saying? Having dominion. And I think there's a line that gets crossed when it's like, well, look, we've created all this AI that's going to do everything for us. That's dominion. Well, no, I don't think, I think we've now crossed a line where there's something that's like meaningful. We should have meaningful work. We should have meaningful creation that's going on. And I think that we are robbing ourselves, and there might be even something that's sinful in AI taking over. Yeah.
So like kind of like when you stop thinking for yourself.
Yeah, I think absolutely. If you stop thinking for yourself, you know you've crossed the line. That's like for sure. Red flag, red flag, red flag. So here, I think using AI as like a Google tool may be helpful. Like let's say, I'm writing a sermon. So clearly, if I'm gonna write a sermon for Sunday morning, I'm a pastor. If I just say, give me a sermon on Romans 1. Here's my point. It'll write probably a great sermon. In the voice of Tim Keller, John Piper. It'll do it. And sometimes you read this stuff, and it is impressive. Someone shared something, they asked Claude about the best argument for God in the voice of C.S. Lewis, and it was brilliant. It was incredible. Honestly, I read it, and I was like, that's AI? You can look at that. Went viral online. So writing a sermon, no, that's your job. That is not just, it's good for you. You're paid to study and understand and expound the text, and if you're cutting out the thinking from it, and you're just, get a different job. Like, if you just want to read someone else's script, go be an actor. You know what I'm saying? But that's not your job is to pastor and shepherd. Okay, here's another thing though. What if I'm like, okay, Romans 1, I wonder what different faith traditions have views on this. You know, like the Baptist view, or like the Presbyterian view, or you know what I'm saying? Like, I want to know how they would handle this, or I think that is like, kind of like using a commentary, or a concordance. It's cutting down the time. I don't need all these books on my bookshelf. I can say, what does John Calvin think about this? Type it in. And if it's a good AI, and it gives you some, you still probably need to fact check it or whatever, but that's, I see, kind of a productive, maybe a good way to use it, and then bring that, using your head, into your sermon. You see the difference between those two things? So one is more like, kind of like Google, but like a more extreme, like more intelligent. It's compiling more stuff, whatever. But again, I don't know if I have all the answers to this, because this is fresh, this is like new. But definitely, anytime you can think for yourself, you should be. Yeah?
I think we also have to be careful, like, especially your example of pastor.
Yeah.
Where does the Holy Spirit come in?
Totally.
Like, you're a pastor for your particular church.
Yeah.
God will speak through you for the people, the specific people in your church. If you
Yeah.
go to God, have this amazing sermon, but you know what? That's not what your church needs to hear right now.
Yeah, that's right. I think when you take the Spirit out of this whole process, that is a huge red flag. Like, that's part of it. Yeah. You lay hands on your computer or something. Lord, help my AI. No, definitely don't do that. We need to be, this is all part of it, right? And by the way, it's going to help you grow. So the next time you're in a situation where your person comes to you, right, and they're asking, like, your flock, and they need help in your office, hold on a second, let me just check chat. No, it doesn't work. Like, you gotta know, and as you prepare sermons, this is helping you as a pastor grow. So that when you get up, to do a Q&A, or you're in a counseling session or whatever, you're able to provide that wisdom, that you have all this time that you gain. Yeah, I think it's just real dangerous. Last one, the back.
Okay. My question is more around, I speak to a lot of people and they're like, I wish I could just get off social media. I hate
Yeah.
it. And yet they're on for work or personal or whatever.
Yeah.
As a believer, how would you use that as a way of connecting with them about what's really going on?
That's a really good question. What I would do is ask them a question. So they say, I really want to get off social media. I'd ask them why. say, well, yeah, I kind of feel that way too. Why do you say that? And they may say something like, and I'm just speculating, but I just feel like overwhelmed. I feel like it's too much. I feel like I'm not connected to the world. I feel like I'm like in this phone world, not like the real world. And that may be a segue to say, yeah, you know what? That's because we weren't created for that world. We're created for like the real world. Community, not isolation, just me and my phone. We're created to interact with people. And I think that could open up a really cool conversation about how we're made in the image of God, and like, this isn't good for us. And when I say it's not good for us, I mean like, there's a way that we're supposed to live, that God has created, that God's made. If the world has no creator, then it doesn't matter. There's no supposed to. You just do whatever, you know? There's no design, but I think we are designed. And so that could be a really cool segue, especially for someone who's not a believer. And if they are a believer, then you just jump right into it, you know? And maybe then you're like, hold each other accountable. Yeah, let's do something. Let's try to go on a little fast here from all this stuff. That's going to have to hold you guys for now. 12:01. Can I send them out?
Absolutely.
Okay, so it's lunch. Maybe I'll let you. I really don't know what's going on.
Well, let's give Tim